Oh boy. This has been a horrible week. I hate coming on here and always being depressing, but this has been a horrible week. So last Sunday, I was out here, and I have a tent set up in my backyard. And it's kind of a place that I just kind of go and chill out in the summertime. It's a big tent, looks like this. I got a TV in here, surrounded by a fence. It's just a place I go and chill out until I can afford to put something a little bit more solid or permanent or move or whatever. It's kind of like a man cave. It's redneck, that's for sure. But about 3 months ago, we had a cat show up here. And I love cats. I love them. I always have. I grew up with them. I grew up in apartments with my mom. And so I have a very soft spot when it comes to cats. Oh. And about 3 months ago, we had a cat show up here. Just wandered into our yard. And I had assumed it was a neighbor's cat or somebody's cat. And I didn't really think anything of it. I pet it and whatever. But it never left. It was here for like a week. We didn't feed it. It never left. And then eventually I was like, well, we got to give this cat some food. He's obviously starving. Although he probably wasn't. So we fed the cat. He ended up becoming part of the family. Although he mainly lived in this tent. It's always nice. And he took shelter from the rain. I left the bottom of the door right there unzipped. And he took shelter in here from the rain and from the sun and from the wind or from whatever. And I set up a little in here. There's his bowl and his plate that he was eating off of, and he was living in here. And he was an absolute sweetheart. Last Sunday, I noticed that he wasn't feeling well. He was kind of just laying there and wasn't responding to food. He wasn't responding to attention. He wasn't responding to being pet, and he always did. You'd say his name. His name was Winston, and you'd be like, Winston, come here, and he would walk over to you and headbutt you and everything. And this night on Sunday, last Sunday, he just laid there. You could tell he wasn't feeling good. So I was thinking, oh, maybe he ate something or he got into something. We'll see what happens. Monday rolled around and he was seemingly getting worse. And I was like, well, what the hell, Okay, well, hopefully he's better tomorrow. Tuesday came around and I checked on him Tuesday morning and he was still sick, but he seemed like he was a little bit more responsive. So I was like, well, maybe he's getting better. But I came home from work on Tuesday and he was really bad. Really bad. And of course, all the vets were closed, so I had to take him to an emergency vet. And we brought him in there. He ended up having to stay at the emergency vet for like 24 hours before they even looked at him. They just kept him stable and comfortable. And the doctor calls me on Wednesday morning, and she's like, he's really stuffed up. I think he's got upper respiratory infection. And that's what she was thinking. But she's like, the only thing that's got me concerned is that when I did my examination, when I checked his belly area, he seemed like he was pretty sore down there, and I felt some what she called free roaming fluid is what she called it. And I'm like, okay, so what's that mean? She goes, well, I'm thinking it may be just infection inside of his stomach, or could potentially be an abscess, an internal abscess. She goes, I'd like to take a picture of his stomach to make sure that that's what it is, and so I can prescribe the right medicine and we'll get him home. And then she's like, this is going to cost you $800. And I'm like, holy shit, So I asked her, I said, well, we one time had a cat that we had to bring in, and we actually brought it to the emergency vet because it was, once again, after hours. We had to bring one of our cats in that wasn't feeling well. She ended up had ingested something, and we went through the same steps, did the stomach picture, whatever, the ultrasound, and we paid like $1,000, and we ended up having to put her down. So I was really worried that that was the road we were going down. And I double checked with the veterinarian. I was like, are you sure, or how sure are you that this is what you think it is? And she told me, I'm about 95% sure, but I just want to double check. So I was like, okay, go ahead and do it. I want to make sure we get him on the right medicine. So about 3 hours went by. She calls me and she goes, I have some bad news. And I knew it. I knew it before they took the pictures. I knew it when I brought him to the vet, that there was something seriously wrong. She goes, I have some bad news. Unfortunately, the pictures came back and he's got tumors and or masses on his lymph nodes. And when I did the examination, I did notice a lymph node in his neck that was swollen. And she goes, based on his blood work and these numbers are here and there, and it was a bunch of bullshit that I didn't understand she was talking about, we're thinking that he has lymphoma. And I'm like, oh, well, great, Okay. So she starts rambling off all my options I could have done for him. She wanted me to have them do a biopsy to make sure it was lymphoma, and then she was, at this point, fairly certain that it was because of the blood work matching up with the masses. And she was talking to the tune of like $5,000 or more to treat this cat, and it wasn't even a guarantee that they would have been able to do anything for him, because it would have been getting the biopsies and then really hardcore chemotherapy, so the cat would have just been miserable the whole time anyways. My other option was to prescribe, she was going to give him prednisone, some sort of steroid, which she thought would give him maybe a couple more months of normal life. And I almost did that. I almost thought, it'd be nice to have him around for a couple more months, but he was so miserable, and I didn't want him to have to go through that misery again. I didn't want to be selfish, even though it was a really hard decision. We ended up having to put little Winston down, and it ended up costing me $1,200. And so I'm sitting out here tonight after work, having myself a Busch Light, and I'm feeling lonely because my little buddy's not out here. And it sucks. It's really funny, like, how attached you get to your cats, or your animals in general. They're like your family, like your little children, your little fur babies. And my heart's breaking tonight. Even though we only had him around for 3 months, I mean, I fed him, I hung out with him on a daily basis after work. I always come out here after work, hang out, watch YouTube on my TV or whatever, and he was always out here for like the last 3 months with me. I got somewhat attached to him. So it absolutely broke my heart when I had to make that decision. And now I'm out here, like I said, just missing the little guy. So, yeah. So hug your cats if you still have them, because it's a sad, sad day when they go. All right, you guys. I'll see you later.